What if the story we tell ourselves about the Stone Age is completely wrong? We picture ancient humans huddled in caves, hunting mammoths. But what if, at the same time, halfway across the world, people were navigating the open ocean, hunting sharks, and operating a trade network that spanned thousands of kilometers? A new discovery, just announced in June 2025, suggests exactly that. And it doesn't just add a new chapter to our history, it forces us to tear out the old pages and start again. For 15 years, archaeologists have been meticulously excavating a series of caves on an island in the Philippines called Mindoro. What they found there is rewriting the timeline of human innovation. The established view has been that complex, long-distance sea travel was a relatively recent invention, maybe from the last few thousand years. Before that, our ancestors were mostly landbound. Any sea crossings were thought to be accidental. Small groups clinging to logs, pushed by the current, washing up on a new shore by sheer luck. The findings from Mindoro completely shatter that idea. They show that as far back as 35,000 years ago, humans weren't just surviving on the coasts, they were mastering the seas. So what makes this one island so important? The key is that Mindoro was never ever connected to mainland Asia by a land bridge. Even during the deepest ice ages, when sea levels were 120 meters lower, there was always a significant stretch of open ocean separating it from everything else. Reaching it wasn't a casual stroll. It was a deliberate voyage. The mere presence of humans there 35,000 years ago is proof of seafaring, but it's what they were doing there that changes the entire story. Inside the caves, the research team found the remains of what these ancient people were eating. And it wasn't just shellfish and small coastal fish. They found the bones of sharks and large, powerful fish like bonito, which is a type of tuna. These are not creatures you catch by wading into the shallows. These are pelagic, deep-water predators. To hunt them, you need to leave the safety of the coastline behind. You need sturdy, seaworthy boats capable of handling the open ocean. You need the technology to catch them, and you need to know where to go. This isn't accidental drifting. This is planned, systematic deep-sea fishing. It proves these Stone Age mariners had an advanced knowledge of the ocean, the seasons, and the migration patterns of their prey. They knew the sea wasn't just a barrier, it was a source of immense wealth, and they had the tools to prove it. The archaeologists uncovered a sophisticated toolkit, not just of stone, but also of bone and shell. They found a small bone implement called a fishing gorge. It's a precursor to the hook, a clever little device that would lodge in a fish's mouth. This is some of the earliest evidence for line and hook fishing ever discovered. They also found round, groove stones that were likely used as net sinkers. So not only were they line fishing, they were using nets, which suggests coordinated group efforts to harvest the sea. Their ingenuity didn't stop there. Living on an island, high-quality stone for tools might have been scarce. So what did they do? They innovated. For over 30,000 years, they used shell as a primary raw material for making tools. Later, around 7 to 9,000 years ago, they were crafting beautiful, highly effective axes, or adzes, from the shells of giant clams. But this is where it gets truly fascinating. These specific giant clam adzes are almost identical to others found across island Southeast Asia. They've been found in Borneo and as far away as Manus Island in Papua New Guinea, over 3,000 kilometers from Mindoro. This is not a coincidence. This is evidence of a shared technology, a flow of ideas across a vast maritime network. And there's more. The team found razor-sharp cutting tools made from obsidian, a type of volcanic glass. When they analyzed the chemical fingerprint of this obsidian, it didn't come from Mindoro. It came from sources on another island, Palawan. This is a smoking gun for inter-island contact. Either people were transporting the raw material, or skilled artisans were traveling between islands, carrying their knowledge with them. We're looking at a Stone Age trade and communication network connected by the sea that existed tens of thousands of years ago. These weren't isolated tribes. They were part of an interconnected world. This evidence forces a radical shift in our perspective. For a long time, the story of technological progress was very Eurocentric. We learned about the great leaps forward happening in Ice Age Europe. But this research suggests that in the realm of maritime technology, Southeast Asia might have been far ahead. As one publication put it, these findings put the region ahead of Europe and Africa in technological progress at that time. The researchers themselves point out that to build these boats, you need rope and bindings. And through microscopic analysis of the wear on some stone tools, they found traces consistent with processing plants to extract fibers. This is the ghost evidence of the ropes, nets, and lashings that held their maritime world together. So while we picture Europeans painting bison on cave walls, these people were likely weaving ropes, rigging boats, and planning their next voyage. The implications for their cognitive abilities are enormous. Building a boat, planning a voyage, navigating to a spot in the open ocean, catching a shark, and then finding your way back home requires incredible planning, cooperation, and communication. Some anthropologists have even argued that the complex demands of sailing may have been one of the driving forces behind the development of sophisticated language. You can't build and sail a boat with simple grunts. You need to give complex instructions, share knowledge, and work as a team. These weren't primitive people. Their minds were as modern as ours. They just had a different toolkit and a different set of problems to solve. And they solved them brilliantly. So if they were this capable, what else were they doing? The Mindoro sites also give us a glimpse into their culture. On a nearby island, the team found a 5,000-year-old grave. An individual was buried in a fetal position, laid on and covered by limestone slabs. This formal burial style is remarkably similar to other ancient burials found as far away as Vietnam and Indonesia. Just like the tools, this suggests that even cultural and spiritual ideas were traveling along these sea highways. People were sharing beliefs, rituals, and a common way of seeing the world, all thanks to their mastery of the ocean. This completely rewrites the story of how humans populated this part of the world, and even how they may have reached places like Australia 65,000 years ago. The old accidental drifter theory looks less and less likely. It's more probable that these were deliberate, planned migrations, undertaken by people who knew exactly what they were doing, people who were explorers, not castaways. But this raises a haunting question. If these maritime cultures were so widespread and successful, where is all the evidence? The Mindoro caves are a rare window because they were high enough to escape the rising seas. At the end of the last ice age, around 12,000 years ago, the glaciers melted and sea levels rose by over 100 meters. This flooded vast coastal plains all over the world. In Southeast Asia, a massive landmass known as Sundaland, which connected many of today's islands, disappeared beneath the waves. It's almost certain that the biggest and most important settlements of these maritime people were on the coasts, exactly where the best resources were. Those ancient coastlines, their villages, their boat-building sites, their workshops, are all now deep underwater. We are only seeing the faintest echoes of their world from inland and upland sites like the ones on Mindoro. What we're finding is amazing, but it's likely just the tip of a massive, submerged iceberg. This isn't a myth about Atlantis. This is a scientific reality. Entire chapters of human history, entire worlds built by these seafaring people, were erased by the rising tides. The discoveries on Mindoro are more than just a new data set for archaeologists. They give us a profound insight into the human spirit. They show us that 35,000 years ago, people were not just surviving. They were innovating, exploring, connecting, and building complex societies. They turned what should have been an impossible barrier, the ocean, into their greatest asset. They were not waiting for civilization to come to them. They were building it themselves out on the water. It shows that our tendency to underestimate the past is one of our biggest intellectual blind spots. We look at the lack of metal or massive stone cities and we call it primitive. But the sophistication of these people was expressed in perishable materials and in knowledge. Knowledge of the stars, the currents, the fish, and of how to build a vessel that could dance with the ocean. That is a form of advancement we are only just beginning to appreciate. Their story, long lost to the sea, is finally being told. So the next time you picture the Stone Age, maybe don't just think of hunters on a frozen plain. Picture a mariner standing on the shore of a tropical island, looking out at the horizon, not with fear, but with purpose. Knowing that beyond that horizon lies another island, another community, another opportunity. They proved that the sea wasn't the end of the world. It was the beginning of one, which makes you wonder, what else is still out there, waiting to be found beneath the waves? To continue exploring the latest discoveries that are rewriting our past, make sure you keep tuning into deep research. You never know what we'll uncover next.